So, what better way to come out of a weekend without politics in my life than to come right back to Donald Trump doing some wild stunt that completely backfired on him? So, if you didn't know, he had himself a little rally at the Madison Square Garden, which I think that he's got like the same kind of adulation for that place that even somebody like me has, where I'm just like, man, it's got so much history. I watched so many WrestleManias and so many hockey games, to the point where it's just like, man, Billy Joel made a big deal about having his residency there. So I kind of find it funny that, Donald Trump is kind of like little kid about it, where he's just like, the garden, I got to have the garden. You're nobody if you can't sell out the garden. So he had, I mean, I saw it as like a mock RNC kind of thing, where he was so upset about the way that the RNC like looked milk toast and was so boring. I guarantee that he saw like one of those TikToks that like compared the two, and he was just like, you know what, they're right. This is one of the rare times that I'm just going to admit it. This was boring. We did a bad job. We need to have something. We need to have something more. The optics did not look good. So he did this like whole rally for freedom thing in New York, which is risky in itself, because I understand the thought process behind it. The Trump team probably saw this as an opportunity to have the optics of a full like DNC like situation where they had a lot of speakers. He was coming fresh off the Joe Rogan appearance, which that was its own thing. Surprisingly did not listen to it. I think I'll listen to it this week and go through it and give my takes on it. Try and be a little bit more fair and different than everything else. But because everybody else, they pretty much got the same opinions on the stuff. Whether if you're a Joe Rogan fan, then you loved it. If you were a Joe Rogan hater, then you hated it. It's not not rocket science here. But this was the riskiest move that I think that he could have made, where he had Tony Hinchcliffe on, which, if you don't know who Tony Hinchcliffe is, he's got a podcast called Kill Tony, where the whole thing is about roasting up and coming comedians, or just essentially creating the worst type of podcast content that you can, in my opinion, because it's just the mean spirited shit in comedy, which I know, but I'm over that. I don't know. Like, the edgelord part of me doesn't care about that stuff anymore. And honestly, it's like the biggest crutch that I see, where I'm just like, okay, so you guys are still stuck in trying to like prepare your bits for when, or like prepare your material for if you ever were to come across Patrice O'Neill, who is, passed away. So like they're doing that thing where they're living in like the early 2000s Opie and Anthony without having the Opie and Anthony influence, where now it's just self-influenced, because Joe Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe, they are kind of like, and I'd even put Burt Kreischer up there, they're kind of like the gatekeepers now. Like, they became the gatekeepers of the comedy community. And then they want to sit here complaining about like how comedy is kind of dying, how, there's like just this small congregation of comedians, but then they don't see the irony that it's like, yeah, because you guys shit on the other ones that are up and coming because they don't have material that you agree with, ironically. So anyway, let's take a look at Tony Hinchcliffe's very, very cringe bit. So yeah, I kept it blacked out today. Boom. How? But yeah, of course, Majority Report, because why not? I wanted to see what they had to say about it too. Don't you want to know? I want to know. So,
how to dress like a metrosexual? I will give a discount.
Interesting part to come in. So, did he just say metrosexual? Just back up. Okay. And is metrosexual even a thing? Like, didn't that just become part of style? Like, I mean, I guess I'm yeah, I started wearing these like years ago, and I got called that. There was like, oh, look at you with your jewelry.
Good to know.
Yep. Let's go into the Dango Bengal, right? It's a long IM. Hi, Sam and Emma. I confronted my mom today about the Kill Tony hate rally at Madison Square Garden. Imagine my heartbreak when I had to confront the reality that my mother does not care about me or my younger brother, who is the golden child of our family. She doesn't care about the fears I have about the racism my brother, father, and I will face as three of us are Colombian and Puerto Rican. She doesn't care about the violence, the racism directed at us. She doesn't care the three of them could be deported. My paternal grandfather was from Puerto Rico, was World War II, was World War II. My paternal grandmother is from Colombia. She escaped a genocide she wasn't even aware was happening. They welcomed my mother into their family as if she was their daughter. My mother's ancestors fled to the U.S. and fought back until their last breath against the British during the Great Potato Genocide. It was not just a famine. The potato famine was part of a long ongoing attempt at ethnic cleansing of my ancestors because they were Irish and Gaelic. And here she is telling grand offspring of a World War II vet or a genocide survivor, descendant of a clan of survivors, that my mom doesn't care about her family being dehumanized. My fear is that my brother, who would be marched in footstep with neo-Nazis, would be used as a scapegoat or would be one of the first to be thrown behind bars. She doesn't care about my fears. My father would lose his citizenship despite being born in this country, despite his father being a natural-born citizen. Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about that. Let's play some of these clips. So there was a rally. Do we know how many speakers in total there were there?
I'm not sure, but I just will say as a pretty diehard Rangers and Knicks fan, shame on James Dolan, but not surprising that he essentially gave out Madison Square Garden for free for a Nazi rally. Like,
wait, for free?
I mean, I think that there was maybe I'm making that up. I'm not sure if there was a fee or not, but he is a Trump supporter, so I wouldn't be shocked. So maybe not for free. I could have seen that incorrectly. But yeah, I mean, it's meant to evoke that actual Nazi rally from
Bund rally,
1939.
It really does. I mean,
it was 39.
There's no other real answer for this, right? I mean, like, what was the idea of doing this rally? Can we put up pictures? Let's just put up pictures of the original one. This is the original Bund rally that took place in the Madison Square Garden in 1939. People forget. Things were getting a little bit fashy over here, too.
Yeah.
It was around this time that there was an attempt.
Got a little click in my jaw.
To, maybe stage a coup against FDR and the New Deal. And here are these images. I mean, pick. Oh,
geez.
Pick this one. This is the one where the from the Post down here. Or do the when Nazis took Manhattan, the code switch first. Yes, pop that up.
This reminds me of the Blues Brothers.
Oh, okay, you can see that. Okay, now switch over to the uniforms down on the third row.
Fucking hate Illinois Nazis.
Oh, here you can see. I mentioned. This is in 1939.
I hate New York
20,000
Nazis.
American Nazis, descended. I mean, they're actually wearing the costumes at that time. Take that.
Hot take. Booing the 1939 New York Nazis.
Washington Post one right there. Yeah.
That sounds like a baseball team thing. And up next, the New York Nazis in Madison Square Garden.
This is the image when I mentioned that Jewish guy, I think from Queens, stormed the stage. Just to give you a sense of what was going on in 1939. Now, you have to remember that same place, 26 years earlier, there was a rally there of KKK members.
Oh, really? See, now that I did not know.
Madison Square Garden. This is at a time where you had 6 million card-carrying members of the KKK. The numbers were probably a little bit greater. There's only 100 million Americans at the time. 6% of the country, out-and-out KKK members. 20 years later, we got the Nazis there. And then the next America First rally takes place in Madison Square Garden 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, I guess, 75 years later, or more or less.
It's 85.
85. Yesterday. Sorry. I knew it was like
Go Emma.
Something that ended with 5.
Wait a minute. I thought math was his
29
thing.
speakers yesterday. And people are focusing on this one guy. I didn't know he was a comedian when I first saw this. And there's a reason for it, because he looks like he's just giving a speech here. It's not like he's doing stand-up. And then, this guy did a series of racist jokes.
It's insane. This part I did see. Like I got the clips. I pretty much woke up to them where everybody's like, "Did you see this?" Like, and then like, yeah, there was a Twitter thing that the Trump campaign had to put out. It definitely was eye opening for a campaign that is very
I'm
shameless.
thinking like this is like that guy Walter Matterson,
Okay,
right? That's Masterson, who goes and pretends to be a right winger and then speaks at town council meetings,
city commission
meetings, and just like regurgitates what they say, but just says it like more explicitly. But no, this guy apparently was like vetted and picked to deliver this routine. And well, let's play the first clip. Is it the first one?
well, this doesn't surprise me. I mean, Tony is a Rogan comedian, so this kind of tracks.
This is Tony Hinchcliffe.
It is weird though to just see like now they're overtly going and getting political and like getting involved. Even Dave Smith isn't doing this.
Speaking at the
Like, what the heck?
Trump rally in Madison Square Garden.
Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this.
It's not welcoming, but
Thank you,
It's
Matt.
wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country. Republicans are the party with a good sense of humor. Free speech is under attack, people. I host a show, and each week I get updates what words we're allowed to use and not use anymore. It's happened.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's complete horse. Like, dude, if you're getting that, then you're getting it from YouTube TOS maybe, or whatever platform you're trying to broadcast on. But this isn't something coming from the left. Like, they've been saying this crap since like the cancel culture, I call it like 2.0 or whatever, but the one that happened in the mid 2000s that got the like comedians on board finally, where they were just like, oh, the backlash. I don't like this whole I have to say I'm sorry thing. And then the Me Too movement happened, and immediately they're just like, oh, well, yeah, now you can't say anything. Now everything's an R word. I'm sorry. Like it's such a fucking crutch now. And can we just call it out? Like, it's so hacky.
Happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing.
Pause it for a second. Who does he host a show for that he gets this sheet? Why don't I get a sheet of paper like this?
Yeah, see?
Well, we subscribe to the woke mind virus, so we may not get that.
actually, it's a sheet from Joe Rogan, and you can't say words like racist or.
Right.
Right.
Climate change.
Or he's just going on Twitter and just being like, here, what's the latest outrage news that I can latch onto and start making fun of?
We no longer use the word climate change.
herd immunity.
Incidentally, we are just like a week or two out from Ron DeSantis literally trying to revoke the licenses of TV stations in Florida that ran a pro-choice ad. But
that's insane. That's insane. Could you imagine, like, again, like, and this is what I'm so tired of doing this, where could you imagine if a Democratic politician did this egregious thing that a right-wing politician did? There would be outrage. And for some reason, we'd be listening. There's never any like actual like listening when the left is outraged. And I'm gonna own this a little bit. It's because you're outraged about everything. It's the boy who cried wolf syndrome. Nobody actually pays attention when everything that anybody does gets you going, you shouldn't say that. You can't say that. That's not good. Because I have to be completely honest. Where they're coming from does actually come from a real place. Like what happened with me, where I was told that I can't be an ally of the trans community. And I was just like, what? Excuse me? And they're like, well, you're not gay and you're not part of the LGBT community, so you can't really be an ally. I'm like, that's absurd. That's absurd. And then somehow me having that take became even a bigger problem, where it's just like, you know what? If this is the hill that you want to die on, don't ever wonder why this is the stuff that gets the biggest coverage.
Like the best part was because, believe it or not, folks, I welcome migrants, and they're all like, what? Continue. Are we still on this clip? Yeah.
Happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing. And, used to be able to tell people to Google stuff. My mom's a boomer in the state of Ohio, and there's no convincing her of anything. She's eating the cats. She's eating the dogs. They're eating the pets up there. It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is.
It's hilarious,
guys. There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there.
Ooh. Dude, just as a comedy fan, that was super uncomfortable. Like, that was a bomb that's... Ooh.
Okay.
Let's just get to how far and wide the Puerto Rico comments have and will travel in a moment. But when I heard the first of this, and this is a series of racist jokes, they're jokes. They're also racist.
They're just jokes, people. We're just joking. Like, I'm getting a little tired of that, where it's just like, yeah, but it's when your joke lands a little bit too hard. That's when you should even be a little uncomfortable. It's like, oh, who am I playing to?
Right? Like, I don't know if Latinos in this country have more children than, say, Christian conservatives. My guess is it's pretty close. And also, we should also note that often...
Actually, no, because there is something... I'm just going to say it. Like, from a girl that I used to date, she told me that there's, like, they don't use contraception because they do not believe in it. I know, like, certain sects of Catholicism, but yeah, I mean, that just from anecdotally a situation I went through in my teenage years, yeah, I could see that being true. I'm not sure if it's widely true about the community, but I know that it was, part of her family.
Those are...
That was kind of a dumb take.
Two overlapping circles within a Venn diagram. But my guess is that fundamentalists produce a lot more children relative to...
Yeah. That you have to have a fundamentalist mentality in order to even do that.
I don't know, non-fundamentalists. It is a racist joke. The premise is racist, that they have sex like animals and don't attempt to have birth control. That's what it is. It's a joke. It's a racist joke.
And he
I actually don't see it that way, but okay.
knows this. Apparently, they had to load all this stuff up onto the teleprompter previously.
Of course.
And that's the thing is where I just really do think that this was coordinated to evoke that Nazi rally from 85 years ago. It's like, you could...
What? I mean, okay. If you're going based off like the Trump mentality of just like, listen, I liked what they did there. I want that. Sure. But to say that they're purposefully trying to evoke that, I don't know about that.
Could just see Trump being enamored with the idea of selling out Madison Square Garden, just given his proclivities and given his obsession.
No, that's what I was saying
with New York real estate. Like, oh, that's the biggest place to sell out.
Yeah. How does that not like just your first thought? Like, why do you go to the other side of that where it's immediately alarmist and kind of like conspiratorial a little?
Madison Square Garden. And a guy like Stephen Miller, who is in the orbit, basically saying this is a great idea, and him having his own, Trump probably being okay with the Nazi implications, right? Because we know what those comments have been about Hitler. And for the folks running the show in that campaign, these neo-Nazis, they're happy to signal that to their base. They're going all in on this.
I'm just fascinated by it. Now, I also was like, well, maybe the guy made fun of like white people too. Like, I'm like Don Rickles. I make fun of everybody.
Right.
Oh, you're some type of wasp. You and
well, he didn't make fun of white people. He did make fun of black people, Jewish people, and Palestinians.
All right, so. It's a spoiler alert. We're gonna have to go through that, but he does not make fun of.
He's an equal opportunist.
White people. The comedy is just focused on marginalized people in this, and it's all predicated on racist tropes. Now, I'm convinced, like you say, they knew what he was going to do. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced the idea was this is going to bait all the libs or all the non-racist people into complaining about it, and we're going to be able to do the old, we're joking. How come you people have no sense of humor?
No, that's what they're doing right now. What? I'm surprised that he's kind of surprised by that, or like he thinks that this is kind of like, like an epiphany where it's just like, no, this was just basic. Like, yeah, look at, Ben Shapiro's doing today. Like,
Now, for me, I find this
I don't want to.
really,
I'm not
really
going to.
funny because they just shot themselves in the face
yeah.
in their campaign. There's a reason why Rick Scott, who else was it? What other?
Fetterman. I mean, not
Rick
that
Scott.
Fetterman would
Rick
be on
Scott
that
made a
side.
statement basically
Yeah.
saying this was garbage and it's not true. Anthony D'Esposito, a Long Island congressman, was at this rally. He is of Puerto Rican descent and even criticized.
The Trump campaign has had to distance themselves from this.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just didn't realize, like, because listen, at the end of the day, they're just like, we're doing funny jokes about general things like Latinos and Puerto Ricans and the classic black jokes and the classic, Jew jokes and Palestinian jokes we've thrown in there just to update it. And they apparently did not realize that that Puerto Ricans make up
Freudian slip on your end.
a significant portion of the population in a lot of these swing states.
Particularly Pennsylvania.
Where is the? Didn't I send?
Pennsylvania has
Didn't I
like
send you that tweet with the?
Yeah.
No. Well, first off, yeah, show that right here. You have Bad Bunny and Ricky Martin. I don't follow them.
but Bad Bunny is Puerto Rican himself, and he's a massive musical artist right now.
And they are letting Puerto Ricans know about this. Pennsylvania, 450,000 Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. North Carolina, 100,000. Wisconsin,
Wow. That is actually pretty significant.
65,000. Michigan,
Okay.
50,000. Florida, 1.1 million. New York, 1 million. Oh, in Texas, 200.
What about Chicago? I mean, we got the Puerto Rican Day parades. Like, I'd have to assume we were up there.
30,000 in Texas, 100,000 in Georgia. Now, I don't know if I would imagine Harris is already doing better with Puerto Ricans than Trump. Maybe by what margin, I have no idea. But when you're talking about a state like Pennsylvania that, 40,000 votes was the swing difference. When you're talking about Wisconsin, where, 10,000 votes swing difference over the past couple of elections. Michigan, same situation. God,
Maybe Michigan can make up for the Arab vote going to Trump.
who knows? In Texas, for all red. How many votes do you need to switch? Like, that can't be what they were planning.
No.
They were not sitting back at the convention going like, here's the plan. We got to fill in the middle. But we start here at the convention and we end with J.D. Vance trying to justify why Trump called for the military to attack Americans. And we'll have somebody at our big Bund rally basically crapping on Puerto Rican.
Yeah. From a political strategist perspective, this is gonna go down in history, especially if he wins, where it's kind of like, yeah, we pulled it off, but we don't even know how, because man, that last week there, we really screwed up twice.
But wait, it doesn't end there, folks. Here is that same guy. What's his name?
Tony Hinchcliffe.
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 Straight out of the mothership. He's one of the last remaining truth-telling comics. I've heard this from Joe Rogan.
Go check out the Elephant Graveyard YouTube channel for a takedown of all these losers.
Yeah.
They're- I mean,
you know
he-
what? Actually, you can check out my channel. One of my most viewed videos is of Joe Rogan's latest special that was done by the Elephant Graveyard.
bookended his set with one, a "My Pillow is a great pillow" joke, and he ended it with a "Elon is a genius who can do rocket science" joke. So
Oh.
Let's be clear. Like, how does this guy get there? Well, we can talk about this, but if he's in that Joe Rogan orbit,
Well, it's like the Theo Vaughn thing. It's literally the white dude, I think like a 13-year-old,
somebody in the campaign said to Rogan,
It really is that, though. Like, that's the type of humor that, and it's kind of funny because, like, even as a comedian, I've seen it where certain comedians that used to hang out with them, they start doing, more adult content, like, or as far as like more thought-provoking content, and they don't just do the poo-poo pee-pee fart jokes, and then they'll get criticized by these same guys going like, oh man, they sold out, blah 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 blah, they think they're better than us. Like Bill Burr is actually one of the perfect examples of this.
Rogan, we want a comedian. And this was the one that was chosen. Like this, these choices are indicative of who
I wonder if Shane Gillis said no.
their go-to people are. Here's Hinchcliffe. And I don't know, did this guy freelance this? Like, did he just improv this based upon what he saw in front of him? Or did he actually have to write this joke down to come up with it?
All right, heck yeah, it's cool. Black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy.
Pause it for
Oh
a second.
my goodness.
Is he really a comedian? I mean, I know,
Yes.
like, people have, like,
No, he's sadly one of the largest podcasting comedians in the entire atmosphere. So I don't. It does kind of piss me off sometimes where I'm just like, oh, and these are the guys that are not, like, as I was saying earlier, they're the ones kind of like giving their opinions on what comedy is. So therefore you have like this large contingent of people that think they know comedy and they're just like, oh yeah. You know, Tony Hinchcliffe, he's like the peak comedian. Meanwhile, they ignore, you know, actual, you know, talented comedians, you know, like Dan Soder, you know.
like, I've asked people, but like, this is why I thought this was a put on. Like, this is,
He's a comedian in an ecosystem that's entirely sort of cultivated by Joe Rogan.
Right.
but it's just fascinating to me because the whole, like, his crowd work. And on one hand, I'll be like, okay,
I'm assuming the mail just got here.
I'm nervous. I'm a little constrained. But it's not like he's watching, you know, being careful with his words. Like nobody must have said to him,
it
like, hey, just be careful. Don't get too
Stanley,
racist or anything
stop!
like that. Here we go.
Next to
Is
it,
one.
All
All
Stanley!
right, heck yeah, it's cool. Black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy.
Good stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I apologize for the noise in the background.
I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys this is a groany little morning crowd.
Oh, I mean, there is, again, dude, like, what is it about lowest common denominator? Like, what is it? Like, this guy, this is what I tried to work on in comedy, was not doing this, was be better than this. Because it also pissed me off because there were times, and I'll admit that I did it, where I went lowest common denominator on stage, you know, if I sensed like my set wasn't going well, and it would get more laughs than, you know, my actual material, and that would piss me off, where it was just like, I'm really, this is the audience that I'm placating to. All right, cool.
Huh? It's tough to follow this audition.
Wait, we let him go. Let him go here. Wait.
It's a groany little morning crowd, huh? It's tough to follow this audition for the next Commissioner Gordon's over here. It is, though. It's crazy times we're living in.
All right, pause
all
it.
these...
The groan. When you've got a arena full of racists who groan at your joke that black people like watermelon. Like, I mean, this is, it's both obviously.
Oh man, I can't imagine how bad. I'm sorry. Like, this is going to be wild on Halloween.
Blatant racism, but it's also so unsophisticated. Like, it's so.
Well, speaking of sophisticated, Commissioner
Yeah.
Gordon is a Batman reference.
I know. I mean,
Well, fuck you. No, seriously, dude. Again, Matt's little like takedown on nerd culture stuff. Like, dude, this is like, I'm glad that Matt Leck with the Left Reckoning crew, listen to him about how, you know, funny life is to him, and then like, because I'll be honest, this is where the Tony Hinchcliffes win. Like, guys like this, because who wants to listen to that? Who wants to listen to that guy? You know, the funnest guy at the party. Like,
Okay,
really?
I'm not like the hackiness.
Dude. And this isn't just because he's attacking something that I like. It's honestly like, immediately that makes me think like, oh, so you're kind of elitist about just how you view the world. And, you know, so me liking Batman or reading comic books and not being as, you know, involved in Palestinian politics or the Israel, whatever it be for him, that means that I'm somehow below him. Like,
Of this guy's comedy is completely
again, don't ever wonder why you get criticism from the center.
secondary to
Seriously.
his racism. But the combination of the hacky racism is also fascinating to me. He talks about his boomer mom. Dude, who do you think came up with this comedy about watermelons and black people?
Yeah.
Like, this is the most boomer, maybe greatest generation, or maybe we're just going back to like, Reconstruction times. But this stuff is, did you really just make a watermelon, black people like watermelon joke?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
you can just go back and listen to what George Carlin had to say about how good comedy picks on people in power, not people who are LGBTQ or immigrants or black people. This is the antithesis of that. And he's very proud about it because the comedy is secondary to the racist screed. And then they get to say that they're the only ones telling the truth. You're the one that thinks that's the truth. And I really do think they're in this bubble here.
No,
there's very little sense of like the
Bill Burr actually called him out on this.
right when media ecosystem is so insulated, they're all congratulating each other. They all think that triggering the libs is both like the end and the
No, they think that that's comedy. Like now they're curating comedy to that, where it's like, oh yeah, like I made you grow and I win.
means.
No, because that was obviously not trolling the libs, dude.
I don't know if they have a broader strategy other than that. I really do think there's.
No,
I'm sure
they
he's
don't.
going to get some sort of big podcast interview about how he was the most canceled comedian.
Yeah, he'll be on Rogan with it. What? What? No. Actually, the thing. See, you're already spinning that narrative, and therefore you're already letting them have it. No, you got to. Let's call it what it is. He may be the comedian that got Trump canceled from the electorate. Like, if this loses Trump the election, that number one, nothing is more of like Tony Hinchcliffe. Congratulations on being the most hilarious comedian ever. At that point, you won.
Comedian of all time at this point because of the right because of all the lib freak out about this, and he'll get
Gee, I mean, look at how you're reacting. Do you think that maybe they might be onto something?
podcast or something like that.
Well, he already
Go on
has a
Joe
podcast,
Rogan.
right? Or is that what it is?
Yeah, he's got a big show called Kill Tony, I guess, where they have comedians on all the time. I've seen it, but only made fun of on a YouTube channel called The Elephant Graveyard, where, I don't.
Yeah, and you again, you say that it was made fun of by the Elephant Graveyard, but the thing is, it wasn't. Actually, even Elephant Graveyard was being pretty charitable to Tony, where in the Kill Tony crowd, he did one on oh god, I already forgot his name. Oh my gosh. You know what? Bigger black comic that wears wacky shoes. He got destroyed by Harlan Williams on Kill Tony. And that's the thing. Like, this also, I love how he just said that, like, and that makes him the authority on this just because he's seen a video on it where, you know what? No, I have watched Kill Tony. I am involved in specifically that comedy like I keep saying comedy atmosphere, that comedy sphere. Like, not even just the Rogan ones, because like the New York comedy sphere is where like that's where most of these guys, came from. And like Rogan, funny enough, he always like tried to ingratiate himself with them because he was always like a West Coast comic, and he tried to like bridge that gap. Because like in the early 2000s, it really was like, the Colin Quinn, Patrice O'Neill, Jimmy Norton, Bobby Kelly, like you had all those guys, Bill Burr, and they were considered like the East Coast contingent. And yeah, now it's like this whole, like they are like the new godfathers of comedy, but to see what they did with that influence, and then also for them to turn around and then just be like, oh, nobody can take a joke anymore. Tom Segura was doing the same thing where he was just like, yeah, my audience can't really take a joke. It's like, no, you just got less funny. Like, objectively, you got less funny the more money you had because like you just got disconnected from your audience. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Rogan. For everything that I disagree with Rogan on, the thing that got me out of watching him was just the disconnect with his audience. I'm sorry. He became an elitist dick.
I don't think it's very impressive. Some people seem to think it has some redeeming qualities. I think all these guys are like basically AstroTurf, Joe Rogan, like sort of leeches.
They're also successful comedians, Matt. Shut up.
And yeah.
And he performed at the roast for Tom Brady that was put on by Netflix. So I think, honestly, to your point, Sam, probably similar thing. Like, we need to fill out a roster with comedians for something like a Tom Brady roast. Put Tony in.
Well, no, you're also going to go after like the edgy comedians that do make the right wing jokes and have a right wing audience. They probably looked at that. All they had to do was like Google his Theo Vaughn appearance and then like just any of the recommendeds. Come on.
Hinchcliffe on
Well,
And I'm convinced that's why Rogan reversed and had Trump on, because Trump went on Theo Vaughn and he's going on these other.
No, see, I kind of disagree with her though. I think that it was actually an ego thing because Theo Vaughn did have him on, and then he saw Theo Von's numbers, and I think that was the week that Theo Von actually overtook him. So I think that he saw the writing on the wall for that. Now it would be it'd be very interesting to see what he would do with the Kamala interview, and if he would all of a sudden play the journalist, instead of just trying to be that bro Rogan.
Like, Rogan is not the only truth-telling white guy, racist adjacent, conspiracy theorist comic anymore.
Truth-telling white guy.
Or podcast, I should say.
All right,
I don't know.
and just to
I think you
round
give
it
him
out,
too much credit.
because
he doesn't even give himself that
it
credit.
is easy to pick out one thing and say this guy's racist against Latinos, or he is anti Puerto Rican, or he hates black people. This guy is a equal opportunity critic. It's very easy just to have this myopia, like, oh, you just.
Oh yeah, it's lowest common denominator comedy. The thing is, he functions at that level because there's like this large contingent of 13 to like 20 something year old kids that are, super into that cringe humor still.
Pointing out the ones
I mean, I was. Eventually, you just outgrow it.
that he did about black people and about Latinos, and not the fact that he's like a equal opportunity roaster, as it were. Because here he's also attacking Jews and Palestinians.
Oh.
Ukraine versus Russia, Israel, it's like bad soccer games. Who even cares? What are we doing? Why is our money involved in these wars? When it comes to Israel and Palestine,
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to, was that a joke? Why is our money involved in these wars?
No, that's him warming. That's him buttering up the crowd. I mean, not everything's. This is the setup, Sam.
I'm unclear which part of this is the joke part and which
I hate when they're so uncharitable.
part is this comedy part.
It's funny because it's true.
I mean, this is the thing. They're going to roll out this defense. And I just think it's obviously, it's like already sort of like dead on arrival. But he's joking. What part of comedy do you not understand?
You can tell what the joke is when it's racist.
It's dead on arrival because the Trump campaign came out and said, I'm sorry. Like they know they screwed up.
Bunch of right wingers laughing at Puerto Rican jokes.
Exactly.
The non-racist parts are serious. The racist parts are jokes.
Exactly.
When it comes
By the way, I actually, just a little side note here. I hope I don't get copyright claimed because that's been happening more and more every time, even with the Majority Report, watching clips. And trust me, I have done the research to find out that they also don't have permission. So I don't know what the hell is happening.
When it comes to Israel and Palestine, we're all thinking the same thing. Settle your stuff already. Best out of 3. Rock, paper, scissors. The Palestinians are going to throw rock every time.
Get it.
The Jews have a hard time throwing that paper. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're having fun now. We're cooking.
We have fun here.
So the Palestinians throw rocks, and the Jews are not going to let go of their money. Is that what's going on there? All right. Well, look, it's easy, again, to cherry pick just the parts where he's racist against people who are subject to racism or other sort of attacks.
See, now he could have finished the joke and been like, and one of them, they throw the curveball and, they have a lesbian in there throwing scissors.
Play the part where he really nails all the white people from Long Island.
Here's the story about a lovely lady. That was awkward.
Oh. All right. Okay. I guess that we did not.
Oh, it's the bit. There's a bit. Here, let's go back. I pulled to them. I was taking it too
all the white people
seriously.
from Long Island.
Yeah. Where's all the white people from Long Island that they made fun of? Oh.
All right. Okay.
See?
We did not.
But check out the first joke where he's like, "My pillows are great pillows."
Yes.
And also the last joke where he's like, "Democrats can't parallel park their cars, but Elon can parallel park rockets." So I like that guy who will probably have a financial relationship with someone.
Sure.
Oh, Musk, I'm sure, is down in the mothership green room all the time.
Can I read a joke for you?
It's hilarious. It's about a cock.
You could have my
Take your cock out.
Take the cock out. You could do a joke about where's the chickens? Don't be such a chicken. Here's my cock.
I was thinking it'd be really funny if you looked at your penis and said, "There's a cock in there."
See, I mean, objectively, Elon, he kind of landed it because the bit was so bad that we can sit here and enjoy this and laugh at it. So I'm getting laughs.
It was a chicken.
Get it? Yeah, there's a rooster in my pants. It was my cock, my tiny cock.
Yeah. The saddest, so much was left on the table where they stopped calling Republicans weird. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. And this guy is going to have an entire career now that is going to be based upon.
He already had one. See, this is where being out of touch doesn't really do it. It doesn't do you too well.
On how he was canceled after giving this comedy bit.
I don't know, man. This one's like the first time that I don't feel like this is just a bunch of performative outrage from the left. Because let's be real, there's a bunch of these that happen where it's like you clutch those pearls and then you throw the shit at the screen, and then a week later you don't even remember it. So this one, though, I do feel like it actually has some staying power because it definitely pissed off the wrong people.
And like, even if you take it on the terms that they want it, this is comedy. Dude, all of your premises for half of your jokes were racist premises. Okay, you can do comedy.
Yeah, the thing is, his whole set was just steeped in racism, which makes me think, is he trolling the Trump crowd just by calling them racist? Like, that was kind of my whole thing, wondering if it was like kind of like an Andy Kaufman-esque bit from Tony, where he was just like, you know what? Let's expose them.
And not be racist. That can happen.
Conspiracy.
The other thing is that this guy would not go to his, I don't know, a funeral for his mom, let's say, and do a roast, right? Like, you can do a roast when you're on a dais and it's the roast of, Tom Brady.
Right.
And it makes sense to do a roast there. But when you're in the middle of a campaign and you're doing racist jokes that you think, when I did this at the Comedy Cellar, it was cool. People took it in the spirit that it was meant to be in.
To be fair, no, you know what? Again, I'm going to be charitable. That's just how comedy works. I can't tell you how many times I did a just mediocre bit that landed so hard. So I kept like, all right, well, yeah, maybe I'll lead with this bit, or maybe I'll finish with this bit. And it was, and then, all it took was just one bad crowd, or playing a night where it was mostly bachelorette parties, where there were a lot of those.
I'm sorry. Like, context matters. Context matters. And that's the most generous thing I could put. That's like the level of generosity to say, like, this is just about context is certainly more than this guy deserves, or any of them deserve. But even if I was, it would still be like, how could you possibly not get how this is not appropriate? How could you possibly not get that this is going?
Well, because that's actually how far the political atmosphere. I keep using that word. That's how far it's fallen. Okay, like, that's how deep into this we are, where MAGA has really just taken over, and they've dictated that, yeah, you know what, we live in crazy land now.
To be,
and this is considered normal. This is considered acceptable within the lexicon of politics now. Like, I think that maybe it is the liberals and the Democrats that are like in that old mentality of, oh, you guys would throw out a politician for doing the
weaponized against you in a political campaign, unless you and the people who booked you and signed off on your material thought this is going to help us. I mean, you would have to be the world's biggest moron to think like, I'm just doing this to have fun. I'm supposed to lighten.
That's why I almost do think it's like, was the bit the fact that he was trolling everybody?
Up the mood at the,
because like the left and the right are getting
rally.
trolled on this, if that's the case.
And so I just happened to pick racist jokes, and they okayed them. I think like it is one thing.
Dude, I just got a haircut. Just had all like the back of my neck shaved or shaped up. Oh man, it is itching bad today.
To be in a bubble where you think like, we're not going to get any, a backlash against this, but It's just impossible for me to imagine that's what they thought. They just thought, maybe they miscalculated, maybe they didn't, that this is going to resonate with our people. This is going to trigger the libs. Yeah, it comes at the expense of increasing racism, but it's,
I don't think that the Trump campaign had anything to do with, like, honestly, I think that because the way that they're responding to this, it does kind of like, although this is the same contingent of people that got JD Vance there. So, man, I mean, this is what happens when you get a bunch of bros running your campaign. Like, you start figuring out, oh, you know what? Bro culture is not exactly that popular.
This is going to help us.
We make that trade-off all the time.
100%. 100%. I mean, amazing.
We done?
Yeah.
Really impressive. Really, really impressive. Let's just let's play one more clip from this
cool.
before we go.
I mean, Giuliani is pretty in keeping with what we just.
Oh, Rudy Giuliani. No, I'm good. I wanted to focus more on the comedy there. Oh, man. So, all right. I got a few things that I took away from that. Specifically, just to keep it as fair as I possibly can. I do think that the left comes at comedy in bad faith. Like, you guys are taking every single word that they're saying at face value. And then, like, you can easily mock, like, oh, it's just a joke. It's just but there are, again, if it didn't land, it didn't land. But I don't know this, but with what Tony did there, that whole set was just steeped in it. So that's where I'm like, I wonder if he was trolling the audience and actually like trying to point out, like, yeah, if you're laughing at this, then you guys are racist. And haha, like, look at us proving the left right. And I don't know, because realistically, most comedians aren't steeped in politics, believe it or not. Like, when I was doing comedy, it was actually really hard to have a political conversation with somebody that was, a working comic, because they were just like, I don't really follow that stuff. It wasn't even like they didn't want to have the conversation. Like, they just didn't know. And there was no shame in it too. Like, they just be like, whatever, man, I don't have time for this. And that's kind of where I guess I try to be fair. Like, a lot of people have in my comments have even said, like, oh, look at this enlightened centrist take, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, like, half of that is me trying to play the devil's advocate a little bit and also just be fair and like be, hey, this is where the majority of the country kind of sees it. It's really disingenuous just to go, oh, well, I think they're wrong. Fuck that. Why even platform it? What? Like, no. And also, you could kind of do the same thing to you. Like, do you ever look at yourself and be like, well, maybe I'm objectively wrong? Or like, maybe I'm taking this too seriously, or blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know. I keep doing that. It's one of those days. As I said, probably functioning close to like 80% right now, but I'm still a little bit recovery. But also, I don't know, like, the thing that I said about Matt, like, there's nothing that pisses me off more, especially online, than guys like that. Guys, like, because that's who I'm talking about, who will come into the comment section and like immediately start taking jokes literally. And it's like, and then they just ruin the entire bit. They ruin the just entire conversation. Like, I've been in some really funny conversations before where we were, it was a little edgy, but there was nothing like hateful or anything behind it. But then all of a sudden, because somebody came in who overheard like something that we said, and they were just like, oh, so you guys like, just, you think that these people shouldn't even exist? It's like, what? No, what? Well, I heard you making a joke. It's like, what? It's like, dude, it was a joke. Well, I don't find that to be in good taste. It's like, you know what? I'm glad that you're here to curate the world for how it should be for you. Yeah, thank you for that. But that's also where I come back to that point of like, I kind of get it. Like, I kind of get where like the pushback comes from, because there's nothing more annoying than a freaking virtue signaler that's just like, I didn't think that was very funny. Therefore, I don't think you should be able to tell the joke. Yeah. But funny enough, I think that this Tony Hinchcliffe one, this was a clear-cut sign of oops, he misread the the room, I think that the Trump campaign, they do bear a little responsibility. Emma brought up a good point. If that was on the teleprompter, that means that got by somebody, and they didn't even raise the flag, going, "Hey, maybe he shouldn't." Maybe not the Puerto Rican joke. Maybe, I don't know. Like, we kind of need them. Sam brought up a great point about that, where it's like, that was just so dumb. That was the dumbest thing. Like, I mean, again, as the person that's seeing the comedy in this one, the funniest thing to come from this is just how badly they misread this, and how they were just like, "Oh yeah, we'll win back some support. We'll Good job, guys, especially in your swing states, like they said. I had no idea about the percentages. That's kind of crazy to think about, where it's like, yeah, in Pennsylvania specifically, in Michigan even, man. But yeah, again, I could see where even the MR crew was kind of getting a little on my nerves, where I'm just like, okay, you arbiters of comedy, you arbiters of all things funny. And also, it's like, I hate that whole rule where it's just like, no, you're not allowed to joke about that. That's a no pass zone in comedy. Like, dude. All right. Well, anyway, if you enjoyed this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I have memberships available. If you want to, join my channel, get some of that free, it's some of the exclusive content. My free content is what you're getting now. I'm going to be actually focusing a lot more on my membership content coming up here. So definitely look into doing that. And if you enjoy this content to the point where you want to support me financially, you can leave a super thanks. That is now open. So I really appreciate you guys checking out my videos. And I sincerely do. You guys are awesome. Keep rocking it. Ew. That was douchey. All right. I'm going to call this now before I keep burying myself here. So I'll see you guys in the next one.